On the sidelines of the proceedings of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ramtan Al-Amamara, took part in a ministerial meeting by video conferencing on the strengthening of international cooperation. Ramtan Al-Amamara insisted on international mutual aid and cooperation in order to face modern challenges. As a priority, the consequences of the global COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. The Minister of Foreign Affairs called on the international community to lay the foundations for new international cooperation based on global governance, agreed and inclusive, to face the COVID-19 pandemic.
Under the leadership of President Abdelmajid Tebboune, Algeria reiterates its long-standing position on the universality, interdependence, and indivisibility of all human rights, including the right to development. Our joint efforts to include the respect for human rights as a component of our recovery policies should constitute an opportunity to truly promote and protect the economic and social rights, focusing primarily on the rights to health, education, food, and adequate housing. Gender equality and the empowerment of women would be an important component of this endeavor. The consequence of the pandemic would have been, indeed, less damaging if the economic, social, and cultural rights, especially the right to health, were given the same importance and priority as the civil and political rights.
The head of the Algerian diplomacy, Ramtan Al-Amamara, also met the executive secretary of the Preparatory Commission for the Organization of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, Robert Floyd. Ramtan Al-Amamara affirmed Algeria's commitment to support its efforts to achieve the objectives of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. During this high-level meeting, the head of the Algerian diplomacy, accompanied by his German counterpart, handed over the co-chairmanship of the conference on facilitating the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty to the Italian and South African foreign ministers. Ramtan Al-Amamara affirmed Algeria's support for this UN process based on its own experience, especially that Algeria was subjected to the destructive colonial nuclear tests in its desert.
Dear colleague, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I would like to congratulate Ministers of Foreign Affairs of South Africa and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy for their election as co-presidents of the 12th Conference on Article 14, facilitating the entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. As the Algero-German co-presidency of the 11th conference comes to end, I would like first to extend my sincere thanks to my colleague Heiko Maas for his leadership, and also to all member states for their close and cooperative and productive collaboration in steering the planned activities of the conference, despite the challenges or the challenging circumstances imposed by the pandemic.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Settled Abroad, Ramtan Al-Amamara, held a meeting with the current President of the United Nations General Assembly, Abdullah Shahid, an opportunity to review the program and key issues included in the agenda of the 76th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations, including peace, security, and sustainable development. The Foreign Minister also met with the Executive Secretary of the Preparatory Commission of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, Robert Floyd. Al-Amamara reaffirmed the commitment of Algeria to support efforts to achieve the objectives of the treaty and build a world free of nuclear weapons. During his meeting with his Finnish counterpart, Pekka Haavisto, the head of the Algerian diplomacy discussed ways and means to strengthen bilateral cooperation. The two ministers reviewed regional and international issues of common interest. Ramtan Al-Amamra also had an in-depth meeting with his Nigerian counterpart, Jeffrey Oniyama, in the framework of consultation and coordination on the main political issues at the level of the African Union and the latest developments in the Sahel and the North African regions. Al-Amamra held a meeting with his Slovenian counterpart, Anzi Logar. Their discussions focused on bilateral relations and ways to strengthen economic cooperation between the two countries. The ministers also reviewed a number of regional and international issues of common interest, including the promotion of cooperation between Africa and Europe in view of Slovenia's presidency of the Council of the European Union. Al-Amamra also met with his Portuguese counterpart, Augusto Santos Silva. Both parties put forward the privileged level of historical relations and cooperation between the two countries. They also reviewed developments in North Africa and the Sahel region, in addition to prospects of stepping up efforts to address the common challenges in the Mediterranean region.
The head of the Algerian diplomacy, Ramtan Al-Amamra, also met with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. The two parties tackled several issues, including the consolidation of the strategic partnership between the two countries and the continuation of consultation and coordination periodically around regional and international issues of common interest.
The Walis, or governors and government meeting, will be held on Saturday and Sunday at the Palace of the Nations here in Algiers. The meeting will be organized by the Ministry of Interior and under the patronage of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. The objective of this meeting is to assess local social and economic development policies and analyze the constraints encountered in the field, with the purpose of responding effectively to the needs of the population and lay the foundations for a local development. The meeting will also aim at reflecting on a new approach to local development, which aims at opening up new perspectives for the consultation, implementation, monitoring, and assessment of local programs. It will be held this year under the slogan of economic recovery, regional balance, and social justice.
Out of hope for a new Algeria, the inhabitants of Bidaya province, especially the youth, have a lot of positive expectations regarding the future local elections. And this was after a meeting with the participants in the upcoming local elections and some young people with whom they shared their dreams and aspirations. They are convinced that the long-awaited change will come through the ballot box. All young people should vote massively in the upcoming November 27th elections because it is very important to choose the right person. We want to vote for someone with competencies who can develop our municipality because it has a lot of potential. Fighting corruption, ensuring real local development, and listening to the complaints of the municipality's residents. This is what Bidaya inhabitants want from the new candidate. Bidaya residents are looking forward for a real and better change for their municipality. The change will be made by a massive vote of the citizens, and everyone must be involved in this electoral deadline to initiate a real development process here in Bidaya province. Saturday, November 27, 2021, will be the day of local elections, which is also a day of celebration for all the Algerian people, especially the inhabitants of Bidaya. We are ready to go to vote massively. Thus, for many Algerians, the upcoming local elections will be a new milestone in the construction of the new Algeria.
In accordance with the commitments of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, regarding the comprehensive health care to be provided for the injured due to wildfires that affected several provinces of the country during the month of July. 4 other patients have been transferred on board of a medical plane from the University Hospital of Douira here in Algiers, accompanied by an Algerian medical and paramedical team. 4 other patients were transported to arrive on Thursday night at the hospital of Acıbadem in Turkey in order to be provided health care accompanied by an Algerian medical team. The patients all said that they are grateful for this care provided by the state. I would like to thank the President of the Republic for this initiative. I hope to get well soon. I have arrived safe and sound to Turkey. I want to thank the President of the Republic. I want to thank the President of the Republic. I feel great.
More than 45 days after the fires that destroyed the village of Ikhlijen, the village that includes 4 small villages, Thawrir Tlalla, Athali, Imtukan and Dagulmim, the residents decided to turn the page and forget the heavy material and human losses and return to a life full of hope despite losing their family members. The village of Ikhlijen lost 24 people. We went through a real tragedy. My house was seriously damaged. The roof was burnt, especially with the approach of winter, which will be difficult for us. It's difficult. We are trying to get back to normal life, but people are still in shock. The children are back to school with the help of psychologists who came from everywhere, but as long as we have injured members of our families in hospitals, we are worried. We would like to thank all the Algerians who helped us. I want to say that we are all Algerians without any difference. The children went back to school even if they are still in shock, but they are gradually recovering. Women and children are the most affected by this nightmare. They resume work even if they are under shock. We were afraid to see fire everywhere. Today we resume slowly. We ran out of the village when the fires arrived. Today we are no longer afraid of fire. No more testimonies about what happened could be collected, as most of the villagers, especially the women, were still in shock with the painful truth of having lost 24 people, neighbors, friends, siblings. Not an easy trauma to overcome.
166 new confirmed cases of coronavirus and 16 deaths were announced on September 24th by the Ministry of Health in a press release. In terms of treatment, the number of cured patients over the past 24 hours is 131. The Ministry of Health also recalled the need to observe healthy measures, notably wearing of face masks and respecting social distancing. The Polisario Front called on the Security Council to assume its responsibility in identifying the party responsible for obstructing the settlement process and presenting a timetable and clear guarantees to revive a new path that leads to the settlement of the conflict in accordance with the international legitimacy, in a way that guarantees the right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination and independence. Also today, during the work of the United Nations General Assembly, Lesotho expressed its regret that the absolute right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination is still not guaranteed.